A Begin in the Dark by Nohai Jiachi. Chapter 3. One step forward, another step forward. The boy is still looking at him. He can't actually, don't be stupid. He's probably just doing so to be polite, as if waiting for something. Toshinori coughs, forcing himself out of his stupor.
"You did good, young Midoriya,"
he says, and he means it.
"You seem rather apt at this."
The young Midoriya let out a little chuckle, his cheeks reddening. "I'll work out," he says, an understatement in Toshinori's eyes. "Sir, I'm sure you get this a lot, but you're like my favorite hero."
"I do,"
Toshinori admits, softly.
"and every time it's pleasing to hear, just as the first."
The boy chuckles again, almost vibrating with excitement. And I know you also probably get this a lot as well," he continues, "but you're a great inspiration to me, and every time I'm down and think I can't go on, I can hear your voice cheering me on, and then I can get back up, and you've inspired me to do better every day, so thank you." Toshinori blinks, and the silence stretches for a second too long. "I'm sorry," the boy stammers, pale green eyes finally breaking contact. "That was maybe a little...
"No,
Toshinori says softly.
I don't get that as much as you think. It was very moving. Thank you, young Midoriya. I'm honored you think of me that way."
Oh god, the young Midoriya looks like he's about to pass out from excitement. That is never not adorable, but somehow seems even more so coming from this boy. A sting of pain lets itself known. He should leave. His time's almost up and he should definitely leave. But he cannot help it. Toshinori has to know one last thing before bidding farewell to his young fan.
"There's something I wish to ask you, young Midoriya, hoping I'm not prying."
"Anything, sir."
"Are you..."
He cannot really think of a way to put it tactfully, so he opts for honesty.
"Are you blind?"
Midoriya jumps a bit, his eyes going wide. The soles of his shoes scratches against the asphalt in an almost childlike gesture. I am, sir."
Oh,
Toshinori is so screwed. The boy seriously looked like he was about to faint when Toshinori asked him if he'd be so kind as of walking him to the nearest police station.
"I'm not experienced with the neighborhood. It would be extremely helpful if you could accompany me."
There really is no need. He could have just asked for general direction and that would have been enough. But Toshinori wants to know more about this brilliant young man that destiny has put in front of him. And this seems like the perfect occasion. "Of course!" Midoriya yells before putting his hands over his mouth. "I'm sorry, of course. Although I should call my mom first, if that is okay with you, sir?" Toshinori nods before remembering the boy is blind and mentally smacking himself.
"Of course. I wouldn't want your mother to worry."
"It'll only be a minute," Midoriya stammers, pushing his phone out of his pocket and murmuring, "Call Mom," into it. "Hi, Mom." "No, I'm fine. I will be a little late. I'll explain later." No. Toshinori is wrecked by a coughing fit. God damn it, his time just goes by so fast. He looks at the boy, his back turned towards Toshinori, concentrated on his call. Well, it can't really see him, right? Toshinori let himself shift. Izuku closes the call with one last hasty, "I love you, Mom, bye," before turning toward All Might, heart beating in his throat. His favorite hero has complimented him and thanked him, and now he wants to talk with him. Oh my god, Izuku is going to die! Something is different when he turns. Oh my... It's still there, of course, his light, it's still the same, but... less blinding? Like it's about to go out.
"All done, young Midoriya?"
All Might asks and then coughs.
"Please do not mind my voice. I got a bit of a sore throat that's been plaguing me lately."
Izuku feels it. He's lying. All Might is lying. But about what? When the boy turned, he froze almost as if he could actually see Toshinori. But that wasn't the case. The way the boy's eyes looked, it was obvious, really. What was it that made him go silent and wide-eyed then? Maybe it was just the prospect of to walk with him, but...
"All done, young Midoriya?"
he asked and coughed, crap his voice.
"Please do not mind my voice. I caught a bit of a sore throat that's been plaguing me lately."
Young Midoriya blinked and relaxed. "Of course," he replied, strangely serious. Okay, this way, sir. They walked. All Might seemed oddly interested in him, and as much as that made his heart swell and his chest feel light, Izuku was unsure. Was he always this expensive with all his fans? Izuku couldn't imagine it. The man was the most beloved hero in the world. There was no way he'd have the time to get so interested in each one of his fans. He wondered what made All Might so curious about him. Okay, get that ego and squash it down, Midoriya. If you allow this to go to your head, you're soon gonna become Gacha 2.0. Sir, can I ask you something a bit rude? He says in a moment of silence. All Might chuckles.
Well, I did ask a rather personal question to you earlier. I guess it's only fair.
Why, Izuku hesitates, unsure about how to put this without offending his idol. I'm sure you're a very kind person, but I cannot imagine you spending so much time getting to know all your fans. That's, like, physically impossible. So, why me? And perceptive, too, Toshinori thought. The boy has turned toward him, his eyebrows a little creased. A hand was going up and down his sleeve in a probably unconscious, nervous gesture.
That is indeed true.
Toshinori weighs his words.
As much as I would love to be able to spend time with all my fans, that is simply not feasible. Today you happened to cross my path, and you've done something I simply could not think was possible for a boy in your situation.
Toshinori hadn't thought much of the boy's ability he'd witnessed. At first, it was pleasing, sure, to see a young man such as Midoriya simply not relying on his quirk and actually being physically trained, but not so rare. That wasn't until he realized that Midoriya was blind. I'm not sure I'm following, Midoriya replies, perplexed.
Young Midoriya, I saw you going toe-to-toe with a villain. You got hit only when I accidentally distracted you, which I should apologize for, actually.
The boy scratches the back of his head, embarrassed. It was nothing, really.
And, Toshinori continues, under pressure you thought of a solution with what you had available on your hands, and precisely thrown the bottle at me so I could catch it without having to get both my hands off the villain. I mean no offense when I say this, but I think you understand me when I say this is quite the feat for any boy your age, let alone someone that cannot see.
Midoriya was so red that the greenish hue of his hair made him look like a little adorable tomato. No offense taken, sir, he mutters, looking positively like someone that took the exact contrary of offense from his sentence.
You understand my interest now?
Midoriya nods wordlessly.
Tell me, could it possibly be that you're aiming to become a hero?
Midoriya basically jumps in his skin, turning his head towards him, eyes as big as plates. It has been my dream since I was a kid, he whispers, as if he's afraid the words might break once out of his mouth.
Toshinori nods, satisfied. I'm glad, he says then. I'm sure you have a brilliant path in front of you. I hope to be able to see you grow into a fine hero one day.
This is it. Izuku has died and is now in heaven. There's no way this is real. There's so much he wants to say, but the words stop in his throat and gets all garbled and messy, and Izuku knows that if he tries to talk now, all that would come out would be something akin to that weird key mashing Miki replies to him whenever he sends her some funny text. So he shuts his mouth and nods. They walk in companionable silence for a bit. All Might feels lost in his thoughts, and as curious as Izuku is to know what he's thinking about, he's really not about to pry. Not when he's not even able to string a single coherent sentence together. Izuku perceives a light suddenly coming from his right and tenses. Whoever it is stumbles into All Might with a oof before running away as if he hadn't just crashed into the symbol of peace. Hey! Izuku exclaims, outraged. Walk less slowly next time, jerks, the guy replied, clearly already far. Izuku can't believe his ears. Man, some people, he mutters. I don't know what that guy's deal is, but if he didn't notice who he just crashed into, he must be more blind than me. All Might let out a little choked sound and then starts laughing heartily. Izuku feels himself blushing, satisfied. That laugh is different from the one All Might usually uses. It feels more personal. Izuku always heard the phrase,
don't meet your heroes. And while he can understand the meaning of it, he cannot find himself agreeing with it at the moment. All Might is just as wonderful as Izuku has always imagined him to be. They reach the police station a little too early for Izuku's tastes.
Oh, thank you so much, young Midoriya.
All Might says, putting a hand on his shoulder.
You've been of utmost help today.
Izuku cannot help it. As selfish as it is, he doesn't want to separate from his idol yet. With what he knows must only be described as a pout, he wordlessly nods. Silence stretches as All Might probably stares at him.
Could you please wait for me outside?
All Might says, his words almost calculating.
I'll make sure the villain is properly cared for, and then walk you home. For safety, you see.
Izuku's heart jumps in his throat, and then he bams! Of course! For safety! He can just feel the smile All Might gives him before entering the police station, and as he does so, Izuku watches his lights go bright and golden and blinding again. Huh. Weird. After explaining the situation to the starstruck police officer, Toshinori slips the bottle out of his pocket. The bottle is not there. He frantically thinks, the guy in a hurry accidentally crashing into him. That's when it must have fallen out. He had been too smitten with Midoriya's surprising sense of humor to notice. Stupid, 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 stupid! You're such an idiot. A voice in his head that sounds suspiciously like Gran Torino reprimands him. Toshinori really cannot argue with that. Izuku sits outside on a pot, the bush leaves tickling his neck, as he swings his legs back and forth. He knows it's kind of a childish, but he can't help it. He's just too excited to sit still. He jumps when he hears yelling in the distance. He focuses just in time to perceive a familiar light rapidly sliding towards the center of the city. No, wait. Two familiar lights. Oh. Oh no. Toshinori crashes into the boy just as he steps out the police station, sending him tumbling to the sidewalk.
Young Midoriya, are you...
Before he can even finish the sentence, the boy is back on his feet, frantic, grabbing at his shirt. Oh my... That mud guy! Kachan! He took him! He took Kachan! Toshinori doesn't know what the boy is talking about. He puts his hands on Midoriya's shoulders.
My boy, I'm afraid I will not be able to walk you home today.
Toshinori says regretfully.
You are not responsible for my mistakes, but nonetheless, I need to remedy them. Where did the villain go?
Izuku points in the direction of the city center, wordlessly. His hands let All Might's shirt go as he flexes down. All Might, wait! And he's off. Izuku watches the blinding light soar away, a sting of sadness in his chest. And Kachan... Well, All Might technically didn't tell Izuku not to follow, right? Toshinori unwillingly shifts back just as he's about to hit the floor. Crap, 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 crap. Luckily for him, he manages to stick a semi-decent landing. His body does not agree with his score of semi-decent and lets itself know, shaking and coughs as blood drips from his chin. He made such a mess. God, he's the worst! A giant foot comes in his field of vision. There's a large crowd, but they all turned away from him, thankfully. Please, everyone, stand back! A female voice booming over the chaos. Little columns of smoke are starting to raise into the sky. Make sure you and everyone around you is out of danger. Let us take care of this. Mount Lady, that's her name. Toshinori is sure. A rather new entry into the hero world. There are others. He can see them, and he let out a sigh of relief. God, he is the worst. Makes a mess of things, disappoints a young, eager fan, and then is relieved when others are behind him cleaning up his mess. What would Sensei think of him? He wobbles to the other side of the road, trying to see over the crowd. At least his considerable height comes in handy for once. It is the mud guy indeed. Strangely enough, there are explosions coming out of him. That was what must have lit all the fires, but Toshinori is perplexed. Why did the villain not use those explosions against him in the first place? His heart almost skips a beat when he realizes there's a boy trapped in the mud, cannot be older than young Midoriya. His heart definitely skips a beat when he sees Midoriya pop out the front of the crowd charging against the villain. Kachan's light is so distressed. Izuku didn't really have the time to be afraid during his encounter with the mud villain. He focused into how to fight back at first, and then All Might arrived, and how could Izuku possibly be afraid after that? But, of course he should have been. Of course Kachan is afraid. For all his brashness and big words, Kachan, it's still just a boy like him. And where's All Might? He should pop up in the crowd with his golden light, but Izuku can't feel it, despite the advantage All Might had over him. Izuku scans the crowd. It's hard to focus when everyone's lights are so frantic, and there are other heroes too. He can hear them trying to find a breach into the villain's defenses. Finally, he finds it. All Might's light is weak again. What is going on? Kachan screams something unintelligible over the general noise, and his light, it's so scared. And suddenly, nothing really matters anymore, no matter how much Kachan has hurt him, of how many tears Izuku spilled because of his old friend. Kachan was scared. Izuku charges before he has the time to even realize his feet are moving. It all happens in a matter of seconds. He thinks he hears All Might scream, "Midoriya, no!" But it's hard to tell over the cacophony. More probably, it's the trick of his imagination. Izuku feels the warmth of living fire in the reflection of Kachan's light. He grabs at it without slowing his dash. It's a piece of something, maybe wood burning lively at the tip. The warmth, it's almost unbearable. It's perfect. He thinks he hears Kachan go, "Izuku?" But it's hard to tell over the cacophony. That is surely a trick of his imagination. Kachan hasn't called him with his given name in years. The mud guy is more still, now trying to contain the uncontainable force that is Gatsuki Bakugo, less shifty and liquidy. Izuku focus until it's just the two of them in his dark world, until he feels like he's not even looking at mud guy's light, but directly into his soul, down to his most vulnerable parts. It jumps. The burning stick stinks directly into mud guy's eye. The pro heroes take him and Kachan away as soon as Mud Guy releases Kachan, screaming in pain. "What do you think you were doing? That was dangerous! Are you crazy?" There are voices reprimanding him, but Izuku pays them no mind. He's too busy trying to open back the scope of his radar like a camera lens, unfocusing away from a single object. His heart roars in his veins, and his breathing is short and ragged. Kachan's light at his side is still, unnaturally so, as if he's concentrating his entire being on something. Him. Izuku gulps, all the noises washing over him as if he just snapped out of a dream. He doesn't have time to think about Kachan's sudden focus on him, though. All Might's light is back, right in front of him. He must have jumped into the fight not long after Izuku and Kachan had been dragged away. But something is different, a different feeling to it, like shame. Izuku is far too accustomed to that particular feeling. All Might is ashamed. Why? What was that? Things have quieted down. Police forces and firefighters and ambulances have arrived. Izuku and Kachan got dragged over to a couple of paramedics that checked them and ordered them not to move. Kachan was unharmed, for the most part, and Izuku was definitely unarmed, except for the small scrape on his palm that he got when he fell down after sinking the burning stake into the mud guy's eye. After the paramedics were satisfied with their condition and left them with a bottle of water each, sitting inside one of the ambulances, Kachan asked that question. Izuku wasn't even sure what he was referring to. So many things have happened that pinpointing exactly what Kachan meant with that seemed an impossible task. Then again, knowing Kachan, he probably meant the whole thing from the very first moment Izuku had emerged from the crowd. Izuku is turned toward Kachan, not sure if he's actually looking at him. There's so much he could say. "You looked like you needed help," are the words that find their way out of Izuku's throat weakly. "You..." Kachan hesitates. "You can't see, dipshit." But his words lack the usual bite. Izuku smiles sadly. "No," he says. "I guess not." Despite Kachan's loud, vehement protests, they are not allowed to leave until their parents come pick them up. Kachan's mother is the first to arrive, crushing Kachan in what Izuku can only imagine is a bear hug going by his muffled protests. "Izuku," She's breathless after finally putting Gacha down. They told me something of what happened on the phone. Did you really? Before she could finish the sentence, Mom arrives. Izuku! Now it's his turn to get crushed into a bear hug. Izuku, oh my god, I was so scared. Don't you ever scare me like that again. Mom, I'm fine. He tries to say. Really, I really am. Look, I'm fine. I'm fine. Mom let out a watery sigh, her hands on his cheek, caressing him frantically. He let her hug him again without a protest. She deserves as much after the scare he must have given her. Then her light turns from worried to absolutely enraged. Uh-oh. Young man, she says, steel in her voice, hands like bricks on Izuku's shoulders. I got told on the phone you charged against a villain. You did not charge against the villain, right? Izuku was scared. Toshinori made his way over the ambulance where the two boys were sitting. He had no juice left in him, wobbling in his normal form over there. He did not like the idea of approaching them in his current body, but he trusted young Midoriya would recognize him, at least. It was clear that the boy had much more to him than his plain-looking exterior let on. It was also clear that the boy had no self-preservation whatsoever, and as hypocritical as it was of Toshinori, he was not gonna let this slide. The boy better cram in that curly head of his that getting himself killed before reaching the adult age was not the way to become a hero. Two women were standing in front of the ambulance, both of them with their arms around their respective sons. It was pretty clear at first sight who they were. Then the woman that could only be Midoriya's mother, going by the glaring similarity between them, put her hands on Midoriya's shoulder. Her gaze would have scared Toshinori had it been pointed at him. He once knew someone that would point that kind of gaze at him. Young man, I got told on the phone you charged against a villain. You did not charge against the villain, right? Toshinori sighs. The boy deserved a scolding, but not getting the blame that he was overdue on his shoulders would be unfair and cruel toward young Midoriya. Mum, a word, if you please, he says, the woman turning toward him like an eagle. She really reminds him of a certain someone. Midoriya blinks, and then his shoulders relax. Oh! But he immediately shuts his mouth just as Toshinori was about to eternally lose his crap at the prospect of the boy letting those two words out. Young Midoriya looks at him. He had the distinct feeling he was literally looking at him, as impossible as that was, frowned, and then said nothing else, a knowing look on his face. The jig was up, and Midoriya Izuku was such a puzzling mystery in his mind now. Izuku bit down his tongue to stop himself from blurting out All Might's name. His light was dim again, and he felt the panic in it as soon as Izuku had opened his mouth. All Might... He must have looked something different than usual. It was the only conclusion he could possibly come to. The guy that bumped them in the streets, the non-reaction from his mom, she was as much of an All Might fan as Izuku was. There's no way she wouldn't have freaked out at seeing him approach them, no matter how angry at Izuku she was. Yes, it all made sense. Izuku had no idea how or why, but that was the only sensible, logical conclusion. So he shut his mouth, hoping his face was conveying his silent understanding to All Might. All Might's secret would be safe with him. He'd go to the grave, not telling anyone, if necessary. Do we know each other? Ingo asked, perplexed. Before the sickly-looking tall blonde man could answer, a police officer approached them, looking for Katsuki. We need to ask him some questions. Of course, as his mother, you can come with us, the officer says, addressing Mitsuki. It'll only take a few minutes. Of course, she says, and Katsuki, bless his little grumpy soul, does not protest this time, dutifully following the officer despite the deep frown on his face. I'll see you later, Ingo, she says, sounding just as stressed and tired as Ingo does. They watch the couple leave, the three of them, before Ingo turns back towards the blonde man. I am responsible for young Midoriya's actions, he says, continuing as if there had been no interruptions. He seems to look slightly relieved despite the bomb he just dropped on her. Excuse me? No, Mom, don't get mad. Izuku says frantically. Oh, I mean, sir? He adds, sounding more confused than anything.
I understand your anger, and I will not shy away from it.
The blonde man continues. His voice is vaguely scratchy, and the stain on his shirt looks definitely like blood. He sounds like someone that walked to hell, and then a bit further, and then came back before walking to hell again.
But if you let me, I would like to explain the matter in a more private setting.
He coughs. Inko squints menacingly, both hands firm on her son. Mom? Izuku's voice is low and serious, and she turns toward him. His face is turned up to her, his unseeing eyes trying to convey a feeling that doesn't quite manage to get through. If you trust me, Izuku says, then trust him. Please? It's late. Very late. Later than Izuku is usually allowed to stay up. He should go to school tomorrow. Inko knows he's not going to school tomorrow. She sighs, watching her son trying to dig a hole in their living room as he mutters to himself God only knows what. She has only caught some words there and then, something about a different form. She can't really make much out of it. Izuku is a constant source of surprises. Just as she thinks she hasn't figured out, at least a bit, there he goes with some new crazy antics. What did she do wrong and yet so right to get a son like him? A knock on the door. Izuku jumps, all jittery, nervous energy. Stay there, she says, trying to muster some resemblance of anger in her voice. Sit down. You're walking a fine line here, mister. Izuku instantly obeys, sitting down on his favorite armchair straight as a blank. When she opens the door, the sickly blonde man is there with a clean set of clothes, still looking like death warmed over.
Sorry for the lateness,
he says. He sounds breathless.
I tried to get things done as fast as possible, but there was a lot of talking with the police forces, and I had to get out of those clothes. You know.
He nervously scratches at his head. Yes, I know. Inko squints. There had been blood on his shirt that afternoon. Now, I do not know who you are, and I do not care why my son seems to think you are deserving of trust. I'm giving you a chance on his behalf, but you better have a really good explanation of all this before I call the police on you. Izuku gasps in a way that would suggest she just walked up to a deity and spit in their face. Mom! He screams. Rude! Surprisingly enough, the blonde man chuckles.
Young Midoriya, your mother has a fiery spirit. I can see from whom you took after,
he says. His tone is fond?
You are very lucky.
I am, but rude. Izuku said, frantic, his face flushed. Sir, I'm really sorry. You do not decide who I should be sorry for. Inko interrupts, pointing at her son. And you, she says, turning back toward the man. Get your butt on my couch and start talking. Izuku groans, hiding his face in his hands. The blonde man sits on her couch. His long legs look cramped in the space between it and the coffee table that for her and Izuku is usually more than enough. He holds his hand out.
My name is Toshinori Yagi,
he says,
but you might know me as All Might.
Inko almost faints. Once she's done hyperventilating with the blonde man, All Might, fussing over her with a guilty expression, she turns slowly over her son. Do not look at me like that, Izuku protests. I'm trying to tell you to stop being rude. All Might. Toshinori. Whatever doesn't seem to react to Izuku's words with other than a blink of very slight amusement.
Do not be so hard on your mother, young Midoriya,
he says.
I deserve a bit of rudeness, seeing how irresponsible I have been today.
That's not true, Izuku pouts childlike. Inko wants to apologize every single part of her being. It's screaming at her to apologize to this man that both her and her son have idolized for as long as Izuku has been able to pronounce words. She doesn't. She catches her breath some more. I don't think there's any need to say that I truly admire you and respect the work you've done in all these years, but I hope you will understand that I still want a solid explanation as of why you, of all people, have put my son in danger today. Strangely enough, Izuku does not protest at her words in the slightest. This time. All Might nods, a deep frown casted on his emaciated features.
I'd expect nothing less from you, Miss Midoriya.
His voice is both gentle and full of regrets.
I'm afraid this might turn to be a long story. Sorry for keeping you both up for this long. I hope you will both forgive me for the fact I cannot give you the full story. What I can say to you is that my powers are not infinite. Following an incident around 5 years ago, I found myself being able to rely on them less and less. That is why I now look like the way I do, at least for you, Miss Midoriya. Although I think young Midoriya here has already figured it out somehow.
I suspected something of the sort, Izuku says in a quiet voice.
Hopefully you will be able to tell me how, later.
Izuku nods.
Thank you.
All Might resumes.
I trust in you both that you will not let this information outside this living room. It is imperative that my current state stays hidden for as long as possible.
He continues, explaining to Inko how he just so happened to see Izuku deal with a mud villain after having followed him through the sewers, how impressed he had been with Izuku's agility and his quick thinking.
Izuku hid his red face into a pillow at that point, making both of them smile silently.
How he asked Izuku to walk him in order to find out more about this young talented boy, how he let himself get distracted and make a stupid mistake. Oh! Izuku exclaims at that point. It must have been when that guy ran into you, isn't it?
Well, that's also what I figured.
All Might nods.
I should have secured the bottle better. Anyway, my mistake costed us a whole lot of grief today, and I'm partially, if not completely, responsible for your actions that followed.
Izuku squirms uncomfortable. You can't blame yourself for that.
But I do.
All Might interrupts him, and for the first time during that night, his voice turns to steel. Serious.
Young Midoriya, you are smart and talented, undoubtedly. But what you have done today was stupid, irresponsible, and not something like I thought a boy as brilliant as you would act.
Izuku has the decency to look properly ashamed, at least, Inko thinks to herself with a little sigh.
I sure hope our little chat didn't go to your head, otherwise I'd be possibly even more disappointed in you.
All Might adds, and his words might have been a whip, seeing at how hard Izuku flinched. No! He says, almost getting out of his seat before composing himself back again. No, that's not it. I swear, I knew you'd be angry if I followed, but I did it anyway. That is my responsibility and my own alone. Izuku's voice turned into a whisper during the sentence, and All Might's voice softened once more.
Why did you do it then?
Kachan. Izuku's voice itches in his throat. The villain took Kachan. How could I turn my back and walk home just like that? I knew Kachan would be scared that he would need help. I couldn't leave just like that. Not when I knew that someone out there needed help. Toshinori closes his eyes, a deep sigh passing through him after hearing those words. He shouldn't. There were so many reasons why he shouldn't. I couldn't leave just like that. Not when I knew that someone out there needed help. But in his heart, his stupid, damaged, still beating heart, he knows that the decision is already half made.
I see.
All Might says thoughtfully after long seconds of silence filled only by the ticking of the clock arms going by. I'm sorry, Izuku says, fists tight in his lap. I know I did a stupid thing, and I know I'm super grounded, Mom. He flashes her a weak smile. But I just could not try to help. Please, try to understand. Ingo sighed again, demurely dabbing at her wet eyes, but her voice does not waver. You are in trouble for sure, she says before reaching out and putting a hand on her son's. And I understand that your heart is too big for your own good, Izuku. Sometimes I wish you'd be a little more selfish.
Izuku squirms a bit, muttering something unintelligible as All Might chuckles again.
My sensei once told me something like that a long time ago,
he says fondly.
It reminded me of it very much, Miss Midoriya.
Oh my! Inko stutters, her hands flying to her rapidly reddening cheeks.
That is a bit much, sir.
All Might laughs again. It's a nice laugh.
I believe that destiny has put me in a good place today, despite everything that has happened,
he says, long thin fingers crossing in his lap.
You are both good people, and if I had to reveal my secret to someone, I'm very glad it happened to be the two of you.
The way mother and son blushed was very similar, Toshinori noted. They both started from the ears.
Miss Midoriya, I have very many questions about your son, but I must start with this one.
Toshinori says after leaving them both a few instants to calm down.
Would you allow me to see after his studies?
It got really faint this time.